Hey guys, and welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local offshore, nearshore, and inshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We got a great fishing report lined up for you guys this week, but first let's hear who's making the show possible. It's time we talked about catching some serious savings. Imagine harnessing the power of the sun to cut your energy bills and having a roof that's built to last. Convert Solar and Roofing specializes in top-notch solar installations and durable roofing solutions that stand up to the toughest elements. Their solar panels are designed to maximize efficiency, and their roofs are built with premium materials to ensure long-lasting protection. Whether you're out on the water or at home, their expert team ensures you're covered. As fellow anglers in the Lower Chesapeake Bay, the team at Convert Solar and Roofing cares about both sustainable living and sustainable fishing. So reel in those savings today and visit www.convert-solar.com or call 757-44-SOLAR. Make your energy and roof as reliable as your favorite fishing lure. Call Convert Solar and Roofing today. Listen up, folks. AFTCO has a new promotion for all Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. I especially enjoy their hooded sun protection shirts, as well as their Seiko fluorocarbon. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779-345-2918. Again, just text the letters LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, y'all. Well, welcome to this week's episode of the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report. I'm your host, Luke Barton, and I'm glad to have y'all with us for this week's show, which is brought to us by the Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network and our sponsors. Each week, we'll be talking with expert charter guides about what they're seeing and catching right here in our local waters. We also promote the use of sustainable fishing practices so we can keep this amazing fishery healthy and thriving for future generations. With that said, let's jump on in and see what's been biting the hook this week. All right, y'all, welcome to this first report this week. We're going to dive into an offshore report and a tournament report. We're talking with Captain Jake Bolts from Flying Fish again. Captain Jake, how we doing, man?
Good, man. How are you? Good to talk to you.
Yeah, man, glad to have you back on. I know you guys did a big thing recently. Y'all fished in the White Marlin Open, which is the now what, the richest billfish tournament in the whole wide world.
Yes, the world's richest billfish tournament is what they say.
Man, what was the prize pool this year?
Altogether, all the money in the tournament I think was like 8.6 million total paid out.
That's a lot of dough. That's a lot of dough.
And that's a smaller year. We had 315 boats in the tournament. Is what the official number was, and I think 30 or 40 of those didn't even fish. They just paid their pre-entry or whatever. Normally on a good weather year, there's 450 boats in it, 460 boats.
Wow. So some people actually paid, but then couldn't fish.
Yeah. So if you sign up by a certain deadline, I think a week and a half before the tournament started, you got like almost $1,000 off or $600, something like that off your base entry fee. So a lot of guys do that, assuming they're going to fish. And then there was, I think, a fair amount of small boats that ended up not, but they had paid in. But luckily, they only lost whatever amount of money. I mean, they still lost some money, but nothing crazy, just their base entry.
So base entry is what? Do you have an idea what that dollar amount is?
The base entry, I don't think it's that much. I think it's like $1,600.
Okay.
If you pay after the deadline. All the money in the tournaments is in all that, the Calcuttas and stuff. You could fish the tournament if you wanted to for pretty cheap. You just wouldn't win a lot of money.
Right, maybe win like what, 40 or 50 grand as opposed to millions of dollars.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So curious, you guys fished out of Virginia Beach. What was if you were all in every category, do you have any idea what that dollar amount looked like?
I think this year was the 51st annual, and last year for the 50th annual, they added a $50,000 Calcutta. So it used to only go up to 20,000, and then they jumped up to a 50. And not a lot of boats get in that one. I think maybe 60 or 70 or something, maybe at most. So if you were to do that, I think the number was around, if you're paying charter fees and all that, fuel, bait, ice, it's $125,000, $130,000 to get all in.
What? People are paying 120 grand for a fishing tournament?
Yeah, not I, but
jeez. That's crazy, man. That I can't believe people are. I mean, I know some people like bet big in Vegas and whatnot, but I just can't imagine throwing down $120,000 in chips and hoping that, the cards fall your way. That's
Yeah,
some
well, the
insane.
people that are throwing that down have the disposable income to do it. I mean, that's like the Michael Jordans of the world and all those big boats that lie up in Ocean City. So
Man. Yeah, I guess that's why they call it the richest billfish in the world. It's like the sort of Bill Gates, Zuckerbergs and Elon's, that class of business people coming in and throwing money down.
it was pricey to go all in before, and then when they threw that one out last year, you really saw who had the money. Because
Yeah,
even people with a lot of coin were like, "Oh yeah, I'm not doing that."
right, right. I mean, that's a huge risk. You got to really be.
It's hard to justify that, in my opinion, even if you do have all that money.
Yeah, I mean, I can't conceptualize what it's like to lose 50 grand and not be affected in any way, shape, or form. So I mean, I'm sure for those guys, it must have just been, time to have a big write-off or something. Who knows? But so talk me through you guys, enter the tournament. You fished your boat out of Rudy. For those folks that are just tuning in and getting to hear you for the first time, what kind of boat do you guys operate there out of Rudy Station?
It's a 43 Cabo Flybridge. Yeah, and for that tournament, we're on the smaller side, and especially with how the weather was looking, we were definitely one of the smaller boats, and I think we were one of four boats to fish out of Virginia Beach for this year's tournament.
Very cool. And what were you guys targeting in the tournament? I know there's a bunch of Calcutta levels and a bunch of different species. What did you guys specifically go after?
For us, we don't do any of the tuna calculators or anything, just because all the northern guys have the big advantage on that this time of year. So my guys put all their money into the white marlin and the blue marlin categories. So that's basically what we targeted. And then we were in the meat fish stuff too, just in case, mahi or wahoo, which we ended up catching either. But, if we would have caught one of those that would have qualified, we would have weighed. But, just targeting white and blue marlin.
So if you would have caught one to weigh in, how would that have worked? Would you have had to run the boat all the way up to Ocean City, Maryland to weigh in?
Yeah, that was the plan. You don't technically have to. You can truck fish in, and years prior, and that was our plan if we did catch a mahi or a wahoo instead of running the boat all the way up there because those don't pay out as much and wasting a lot of fuel money and stuff and possible dockage for the night. We're gonna drive boat back to Virginia Beach and throw it in a truck and have someone drive straight there and get it weighed. But if we were to weigh a white marlin, we were gonna bring the boat up there.
Yeah, the whole experience of like backing in with the live cameras and they hoist it out of there. You don't want to do that out of the back of your truck.
No, it's a pretty incredible feeling doing that. I've been lucky to experience it two or three times, and not as a captain, but as a mate. And yeah, there's nothing like it in the world. It's the Super Bowl of fishing, that's for sure.
I mean, what's the energy like? Backing a boat in there to weigh in, and you're on that boat. Like, talk me through that experience. Like, what's going through your head? What's the energy like?
We went up there with a white marlin. I'm looking at the picture right now. That was in 2018. They had gotten word from us that we actually had two to weigh, and they had put it on Facebook before we ever got. This was before Starlink and all that. Before we ever got in the cell phone range, I guess someone had texted off an inReach. So when I got into cell phone range, my phone is already, ding, 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 just blowing up. The White Marlin Open had posted what our ETA was and everything. So when we actually got to the inlet, because this is for Ocean City, it's a citywide event. Basically, people come just to watch the weigh-ins and be there for White Marlin Open Week. So as soon as you come in the inlet, there's just thousands of people lined up down the side of the inlet up there, all cheering you on. They know exactly who we were because they'd already seen it on Facebook.
Wow.
And man, it's the coolest. I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now. There's boats pulling up to us, center consoles throwing T-shirts at us, telling us, good luck, all the way to the
Dang.
scales. And then you back in there at the scales, and there's a couple thousand people sitting there, and you see the big video board, and everyone's watching. It's pretty crazy.
Man. So what did those two fish end up weighing back in 2018?
We weighed the smaller one first, knowing that it was smaller. Minimum to qualify for the tournament is 70 pounds. And the small one was 67 or 67 and a half pounds. And everyone was like, oh man, it didn't qualify, like the crowd. And we all knew in the back of our heads we had one that was much bigger. So we were all kind of high-fiving, knowing the next one was going to qualify. And the next one ended up being 83 pounds, which for for that tournament is a good one.
Yeah,
I'll never forget when they announced that weight, and yeah, we all went crazy. It was something you'll never forget.
no doubt. Did that end up being a in the money fish?
Oh yeah, we that was quite the thing that year. So we weighed that fish on a Thursday, and the tournament is normally Monday through Friday. It was they added Saturday this year because of weather concerns. So we actually had one more day to fish. We went back out fishing Friday, and a boat next to us had caught one and said they had boated it. So we were, a little nervous. We get back to the dock and we're watching the live feed, and they were the last boat to come into the scales.
Oh no.
They weighed their fish and it also weighed 83 pounds. So we were tied, and it went to a tiebreaker rule, which is whoever doesn't gap their fish will be deemed the winner. And we gapped our fish and they didn't. So we went from winning, I think it was at that point $2.8 million, and we went down to like $150,000 on a tiebreaker. I guess technically we were still.
I'm sick to my stomach right now hearing this
Yeah,
story.
it was pretty sickening.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know if how they have it listed on the website for previous years, if they still have us T1, or if they have us in second, but our fish did weigh the same weight, and we just lost on a tiebreaker, which you can't argue with the rules, so it is what it is. But you live and you learn.
Man. And I mean, I guess you would never under any circumstances go back and do that fish any differently. You'd gaff it 10 out of 10 times to make sure you got it in the boat.
We all said that our fish had made a big jump, and the line had gotten wrapped around one of his fins, really weird. And we were using 80-pound leader or whatever. You could only pull on him so much, especially a fish of that size. And he was just being a pain, and we just could not ease him up there, far enough to where we could grab him. So we were either going to break him off trying to grab him by the bill, or gaff him. And at that point on day 4, and a fish that big, you never think it would come down to a tiebreaker like that. So
No, not a
like you said,
chance.
if we ever, we had no regrets.
Yeah.
We would have had to do it the same way every time, and you just tip your cap to the other guys.
I mean, it's not every day that you say, "Man, I was disappointed. I only won $180,000 or whatever."
Yeah,
Like
I,
that's
I
that's
guess
an
it's all relative. I mean,
sure, but to have two of your five fingers holding a 2 point something million dollar check and then have it yoinked by a rule somewhere deep in the rule books. Did anyone have to get therapy? I mean, I think I would have had to go get some therapy after that.
yeah, it was a quiet boat there Friday afternoon after that fish was weighed. But you know how we looked at it. I had a couple of good friends that were also the mates on the boat, and we went up to the award ceremony on Saturday, and we're like, "Hey, man, we just tied for first in the biggest, richest billfish tournament in the world. I mean, there's nothing to be disappointed about there. If you would have told us we'd be in this position beginning of the week, we take it. So, there's nothing to be disappointed about. We're, proud of our accomplishment. I think that year there was 400 some boats in it. So to be, right there tied for first out of 400 some boats, yeah,
Right.
you can't be too disappointed.
No, but let's just be honest. At the end of the day, it would have been great for that thing to come in there weigh like 90 pounds, just to be a clear cut, no issues. Like, all right, we're definitely in second place. So,
The thing with that tournament is they weigh their fish to the half pound. So you can only be, 79 and a half, 83 or 83 and a half. They say, I guess, for wind reasons and all these other reasons that they don't want to do it to the tenth of a pound. But I know everyone knows had you gone to the tenth of a pound, those two fish would have weighed differently. So
right,
that's the only thing I can look back on and say I would have liked to know, but it
right,
is what it is. That's how they run the tournament. If you don't like it, don't fish it.
right, right. Yeah, and imagining that gaffing it probably lost some weight. Was it a half pound worth of weight? You don't really know.
Tough to tell.
But still, an incredible experience nonetheless. I didn't know that about you, so that's a cool story to hear. So, for those that are listening that maybe go offshore, to chase tuna or mahi, we can go back and listen to, some of the recent episodes with Captain Bill, talking about that, Captain Zach for tuna. But I'm curious, for those of us who maybe never pursued a white marlin or a blue marlin, I remember one of our first times talking on the show. It's like, hey, if you could fish for anything, what is it? What would it be? And you're like, anything with a stick on its face.
Absolutely.
So when you go out there in pursuit of a white or a blue marlin, What are you doing different from other pelagics in order to try to put yourself in that strike zone to encounter one of those fish?
Well, the main difference is you're pulling circle hooks instead of J hooks. That way, you're supposed to be able to beat the fish to the rod. A lot of guys hold the rod in their hand now, and then that way, when the fish bites, you're in free spool, and you let them eat it for a minute or a couple seconds, whatever you prefer, and you push it up and you come tight on them rather than just trolling along and the pole bends over. J hooks don't work too good for a white marlin.
Curious, why is that? What's the difference between, is it mouth texture? What is the deal there?
I don't really know other than I think, they have with the bill and everything and top of their mouth's a lot harder. It's hard to get a hook in a certain spot. When you get that circle hook, it's in the corner of the mouth. Most of the time when you hook one, it's not really going anywhere. You still pull some off, but the circle hook is just a way better catch ratio. And in marlin tournaments, they actually require when you're pulling ballyhoos, you have to have a circle hook because rather than gut hooking them and killing a lot more fish when you hook them in the corner of the mouth and you're able, we're releasing in that tournament. I think the release rate's like 99%, and you release almost every fish. So you're trying to make sure the fish doesn't die as well.
Right, right. Because a lot of those fish are going to be well under 70 pounds, so you're not going to even attempt to kill them unless you think it's close to 70 pounds.
Yeah, I mean in this year's tournament there was two qualifying fish weighed, and I think one that didn't meet the minimum pounds. So I mean, out of all those boats that were fishing, three of them got weighed. So
That's crazy. So you're out there, you're looking at some maybe some sea surface temperature charts or some sat images, and what makes you say, here's where we're going to start looking for a white marlin or a blue marlin?
like you said, sea surface, and then chlorophyll is a big thing with the marlins. They like, for the most part, they like the cleaner water usually. So like my first day, me and another boat out of Virginia Beach, we ran 87, 88 miles, basically straight east. And we were way out there and, 1,000 fathoms out there looking for a piece of warmer water with a little bit of cleaner water. And we found it, and we ended up catching one out there that we ended up pulling off. We had got the release on it, but we were trying to get it up there to, get a better look at it, check the length. It was a nice one. And in the process of that, we pulled him off. So we never got to know. I would have liked to get a closer look at that fish. But yeah, we were chasing water that day, and yeah, it was pretty out there. Just there wasn't that many fish around, or if there was, they weren't biting that day. So, but yeah, that's what you're looking for typically, and that, and once you're fishing, you're trying to look for bait. There was a lot of bait on the machine out there. A lot of the bites this year, the bites that did come were around the bait. So that's a big thing.
And I've noticed too, was it last year or the year before, there was a white marlin sighting inside the Chesapeake Bay, but it was right after several weeks of these calm south winds, and the water was just absolutely unbelievably, gin clear. It was just beautiful. And then all of a sudden, this white marlin shows up, between the second and third island on the ocean side. So when you're looking at those chlorophyll, is it a chlorophyll chart? Does it kind of show you like where the water's going to have like less sediment?
Yeah, so like it makes it easy on the shot. It's just color coordinated, I guess, and it's the bluer stuff is obviously your bluer, cleaner water, and then the green on the shot is the more turbid water that is not as clean. And when you're marlin fishing, you're pulling dredges, and what I like to see when I'm marlin fishing is my dredges are down there a little ways. I like to be able to see my dredges pretty clear. That's a good indicator of how clean the water is.
Right, right. That lure set, that dredge is actually several feet below the water surface, but you can still very clearly see them.
Oh yeah, clear as day if it's good looking water.
And so then as the captain, are you keeping your eyes on that spread and looking for a marlin to visibly come up in the spread, and that's when you start to hand feed baits to them?
Oh yeah, so 100%. Most of the time, I mean, obviously I'm looking forward if there's other boats around and looking at my bottom machine and my chart to see where I'm at, but I try to spend most of my time looking backwards to see if, a fish is going to swim up there to a dredge or a teaser, which is what happened on 2 out of the 3 of our fish, which is kind of what you want. That way you can pull that one away from them and get one of your hook baits to them. And that's the ideal way to do it.
That sounds like a whole coordinated dance. And are you guys all on headsets so you can communicate with each other about, what to do next? And
Yeah, we do have headsets, me and my mates downstairs, just so we're not yelling and you lose your voice over time. And yeah, it just makes everything easier. And then even for when there's not a fish around, just changing out baits or changing out color, just talking, it makes it a lot easier.
yeah, absolutely. And then talk me through one of these setups that you would catch in contrast to a blue marlin. I'm assuming a blue marlin, you're using much bigger gear when you're feeding them, or is it a similar size, rod reel combo?
It depends on the size of the blue marlin. Like the one we caught a blue marlin on the last day, and it was around 200 pounds. And we just caught them on the same setup we would use for white marlin, just because we knew we were going to release the fish. Because in that tournament, blue marlin's got to be
Huge.
kind of around 500, 550 pounds. I think it's 114 inches or 115 inches to kill one in that tournament. So
Yeah.
if you don't think he's even remotely close, you just catch him on that. Just that way you can catch him, I'll say quicker and get rid of them and get back to fishing. If it's the right one, we have a pitch rod sitting in the chair on an 80 wide with a couple 100-pound leader. And if it's the right one, you get everything else out of the water and you try to get them that rod is what you're really shooting for.
Man, that's got to be such a chaotic moment to like see the fish and then decide on the right, reel and lure to toss out there and then finesse that bite. What kind of time frame do you have? Like, so you're up there in the cockpit, you're pulling your dredges, your lures, and you see one. Like, what's from time of seeing it in the spread for the first time to the time that you get it hooked, typically? How long of a period of time is that you have to take action, the right action, in order to get that hook up?
Well, you want to switch it off, you got to take action immediately. You got to crank up your small rods and, try to, if he's on a teaser, get the teaser away from him, get that rod going out immediately. And, sometimes they will follow a bait around for a while before they decide to eat, or they'll follow around and never eat it. Or
Mm,
you can, suck that bait out there and they're just going to pile on it right away. So, I mean, it varies. I mean, if you have one right there on the teaser and you're able to switch it right, I mean, it could be within 30 seconds, 20 seconds.
yeah.
And sometimes they'll follow you around or try and chase all different things before you can finally get that bait in position to where he sees it and he switches to it.
Mm.
So it can be, a minute or two, a couple minutes, sometimes.
Well, I know the other day we were Kobe fishing, a buddy of mine and I. And the water's super clear in the bay right now. And we had a double up situation where we saw the second fish, just super slow come up and just eat a bait crystal clear. And it was just so fun to watch. It's so exciting. But that pales in comparison to the one and only time I've seen a blue marlin eat, which was out of the Dolphin Island, Alabama. We are about 130 miles offshore, and this blue marlin was just swimming free around the boat. And I got to watch them, feed a bait to this blue marlin and watch it eat and run off with it. I mean, I don't think I've ever experienced anything more exciting just because of the sheer size of them. And then to see an animal like that actually engage a bait and eat is just so incredibly explosive and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'd say if I had to choose a fish, it would be those, just because what you're talking about, the bite is just so exciting, and that's what keeps me addicted.
Absolutely. So looking forward into the future forecast, it seems like the tuna fishing hasn't really just like found its legs just yet this summer. What's your opinion on what's next in terms of, folks that are listening want to, get booked up with you guys and go target some offshore species in the next couple of weeks here in August into September, October. What are going to be some things that you guys might be looking to target here in the next couple of weeks?
So we have two charters coming up. We have Thursday and Friday, and this time of year the mahi get pretty thick on all the buoys and stuff out there. So what I like to do is, because mainly when you're trolling, you're looking for marlins and stuff, is I like to go out there first thing and, bail however many mahi my people want to take home, 20, 30, 40, and get that out of the way. And then that way we got a bunch of meat to take home. And then we'll go troll for the marlins. And then I think, once we get back towards September, some tuna should start to come back through. And sometimes, I mean, last year, my best marlin day last year was the first week of October.
Mm.
And I feel like our pattern is getting a little later every year right now. I think our best marlin fishing this year will be most of the month of September and probably early October, depending on what the storms do and what it mixes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, once we get to late September, October, should have a good sign of tunas again. Hopefully, good wahoo fishing
Mm.
and mahi fishing stays pretty consistent too, as long as the water stays fairly warm.
Yeah, I remember last time we talked, you had an incredible day with some tuna, a white marlin release, and that giant wahoo that your dad missed out on. So hopefully, Jim, if you're listening to this, you need to make sure that you're on the boat between September and the first, second week of October. What's your opinion, real quick, before we wrap up on, we've got the windmills out there. I know they're laying some new bases right now. What's your opinion on how that's going to affect the fishery, positive or negative? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's gonna be a negative thing for fishing. I guess I saw a thing this morning. They had just dropped their 50th base, and
Wow.
there is. I can tell you from driving out there, those 3 mornings, that it's a pretty incredible thing to look at your radar and see all those targets. It's a maze out there, but I think the fishing will develop probably a new fishery in there if I had to imagine. For some reason, the water in there right now, I think when we went through there the other day, was in the high 60s, maybe 70 degrees. I don't know if it had turned over, had some upwelling or whatever. For some reason, there's a pocket of colder water sitting in there right now. And usually this time of year, you can find some mahi fishing in there, but with that cooler water, that's not going to happen until some warmer water shows up. But I think once they're out there and they've been there, you might see some migration patterns change, and you might get some wahoo fishing around those things. Tunas might come in a little closer, and
That'd be
you
cool.
might even see some sailfish and some marlins around there. It all just depends. I mean, if those things tend to hold bait, and that's going to start the food chain there, and we'll see what happens. But I think there'll probably be a little bit different fishery here in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it personally because, for those of us who maybe have a smaller vessel, 25, 30-foot range, it makes a potential fishery a little more accessible, being, 30 miles off instead of 60.
It'll definitely open some things up for 30, 35 miles. I don't know how far the furthest one's going to be out, but still, significantly closer than where we do most of our fishing. So that'd be cool. It'd be really cool.
Oh, cool, man. Well, Captain Jake, I really enjoyed the conversation. I felt like I learned a lot about the white marlin. I feel like next time if I'm ever in the white marlin and I catch an 83 pounder, I'm going to dive in there and bear hug it beyond a shadow of a doubt and not gaff it. But
Yeah,
I think
do your best.
yeah, like I feel like we should go back there and like have a moment of silence. Like that was just hard to wrap my head around the dollar amount changing. But
Yeah, there was plenty of moments of silence there
yeah,
when it happened.
probably followed by more than enough adult beverages to hopefully forget about it. But
Yeah, that too.
for folks that are wanting to get up with you and get on the flying fish, whether that's for an inshore trip, doing Spanish mackerel, reds, maybe some cobias, go off to the wrecks and do some tile fishing or flounder fishing, or even, get out there and chase those mahi and marlin. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you and book a trip on flying fish?
I tell everyone to call me. My number is 757-769-9545. I tell people to check out the website, and all my different trip options are on the website. So, you can get a look at all the different trip options and call me. And then that way you might have a little bit better feeling on what kind of trip you want to do before you call me. But either way, call me is the best thing to do.
Perfect. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up a really cool offshore report talking about some white marlin and blue marlin and all the good things that happen in these big money tournaments. Y'all stick around for a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back. Hilton's offshore charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. So make the choice that professional captains all over the East Coast make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. That's hiltonsoffshore.com. All right, guys. Well, welcome to this report. We are talking to a friend of the show, Captain Colt North, aboard Litigator Sport Fishing. Captain Colt, welcome back, man. How you been?
Good. How have you been, Luke?
I've been great, man. We've been blessed with some great weather post Hurricane Debbie or whatever that turned into for us. But yeah, curious, you guys are fishing up there out of that, Yorktown area. What you guys been seeing lately? What you been catching?
Lots and lots and lots of cobias, man. It's been phenomenal. Right after that storm, it seems like it flipped a switch for those fish to start, podding up and grouping up, seeing a few singles and pairs still, seeing a lot of bait on fish and, or a lot of fish on bait, sorry. Seeing a lot more groups of fish than we were though. We've been seeing pods for a few weeks now, but it definitely has hit a switch and we're seeing a lot of groups of 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 fish at a time. They're all bunched up, and I'm not going to say they're leaving quite yet, but they're definitely staging up for it.
Hmm.
A lot of high numbers, a lot of doubles and triples, just some phenomenal sight fishing going on.
Man, that's exciting. I saw you on Saturday, this past Saturday at the Y Rock for the Gloucester Shop with a Cop second annual cobia tournament. And you mentioned that you just seen, lots and lots and lots of fish. So that's really cool to hear that. But curious, what was your experience during that tournament day? You and I shared a similar experience. We both had a similar size fish. One of us did one thing and one did the other. But talk me through your tournament day and what went on for you guys.
Yeah, in simplest terms, it was about the best case and worst case scenario you could imagine for a tournament. Typically on tournament day, you're not looking for anything under 50 inches. You're looking for 50 to 60 to, the biggest fish you can find. And
Hmm.
I did see a couple of grown ones, a couple nice fish that would have done something in that tournament. We even caught a pretty decent one, but I had the most incredible day of the year that day. I want to say I saw over 200 cobias, and
Wow.
that was starting at 6:30 in the morning, fishing until I think 3:15 is when I left to run in to go weigh in what we did kill. Yeah, we saw well over 200 cobias that day, and
Man.
and a few of them were shorts, but 90% of them were just these perfect 40 to 48 inch fish that you dream to see on a charter fishing day when you got clients on board and you've got, the goal is to catch fish. It's not necessarily about the biggest one, but it's to catch fish and that good fighting size and that good eating size fish. Yeah, we saw a hellacious amount of them, and we worked through them. And sometimes in that group of 5 or 10 or 15 fish you'd see, you'd see a bigger fish and you'd try and catch it. And the struggle we were having is with the 3 guys I had in the tower, well, myself and 2 others. We'd try and execute on opportunities and cast to bigger fish, and then the other ones around it would eat first or find their
Hmm.
way to get to that bait first. And so we basically did a whole lot of weeding through fish, trying to get that bigger one. And to start the morning, we were looking at a tournament winning fish, 60 to 70 pounds, and there were like 15 others with it. And we ended up, I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure we hooked 7 of the fish with it, and we landed 5 of them, and we still never got to even close to that big one.
Hold on a second. I got to press pause. So there was 3 guys in the boat.
There were 5 people on board. 3 of
Okay.
us were in the tower.
And okay, so everyone was hooked up out of that pod. You said you
Yeah,
had
I
7
hooked.
hooked up?
Well, we hooked 7. We landed 5. We pulled the hook on a couple of them. We started off with a triple, and then I got another rod, and then I hooked another one, and I handed that down, and then I think I got another rod. It was me or my mate, and then we hooked another one. So we went from like, at one point, yes, we had 5 fish on, and we landed all of them, but we pulled off a couple, and still none of them were landed, or still not. The biggest one was never.
Landed. Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest one was
Gosh.
never hooked. And freaking 42 to 45 inches were all over her, and they were not
Uh,
letting her get bothered. That was
it's
at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we thought we had it in the bag. When I saw that pot of 20 right behind my boat, I was ready to go.
yeah. Oh man, you'd love to button up that 65 pounder at 7 o'clock in the morning and just,
Yeah.
mosey on back to the Y Rock and have an orange crush and relax and, wait to get your check.
Yep, it would have been nice, but like I said, we weeded through a bunch. We had a phenomenal day. I want to say we did. I had a youth angler on the boat. My mate's younger sister. I had her on board, and I felt really awful for. I felt terrible. I was whenever we'd hook fish, she was the designated, like, you should catch it, because we want to get you we can enter you in the ladies division, we could enter you in the youth division,
Right.
if you get the big one, we wanted her to do it. So she ended up catching 12 fish over 40 inches, and yeah, she was done for by the end of the day.
I bet.
We had to disperse some of the fighting at some points, but she did end up catching two nice ones. She caught a 53-incher and she caught a 49-incher.
That's the fish I want to talk about. So let's talk about the 53-inch fish. You
Yeah,
guys
well,
decided to let it go. What was
right.
the I mean, that's tough to do on a tournament day. What time of day was it when you caught that fish, and what led up to the decision to let it go?
So at 10:45, we caught the 49-incher. She had just gotten done fighting it, and we decided to kill that one because it was still under 50 inches, and it was a nice fish. And we knew we could enter her in that for something, as a backup safe plan, for ladies division or youth division. And that way we could still, kill our large fish for the tournament that day. We landed that fish. I put the boat in gear. I had a bait rigged up, ready to go. I eased over to another bait ball, or just, I was easing over a couple hundred yards, whatever I was doing. I don't remember exactly. And I saw this pair of fish swimming, and I was like, huh, they look a little bit bigger than the one we just caught. And the one we just caught was the biggest we've caught all day out of like the 12 we've already caught. So
Yeah.
I could tell it was a little bigger, but I knew it wasn't a giant. Anyways, I went over to it. I looked downstairs. I was like, do you think you could handle another one? And she kind of didn't answer me. And then I threw anyway, and I ended up hooking the bigger one out of this pair. And she fought it for like 20, 25 minutes. It was a hell of a fight. She did an awesome job. And got that one up to the boat and compared it to the one in the bag that we had just, killed. And we were like, well, damn, that's a nice fish. We put a tape on it. It was like, depending on the different ways you measured it, it was between 52 and 54 inches, but it was a solid fish, and it wasn't pregnant, it was rode out, but it was one of those ones that just has big shoulders, and
Yeah.
it looked like it
Thick.
weighed a solid, rough estimate would be 40 to 45 pounds. Not your typical tournament winner, but a solid fish.
Yeah.
And so this is midway through our day. I think right down in the middle. We'd started at 6:30, so it'd been almost 5 hours, and we had about 3 hours, 4 hours left of fishing. When you've already seen, over 100 fish, and you've seen the size of all those fish, and they're all, relatively for all, intensive purposes, 35 to 48 inches. And that's the biggest one you've seen and caught that day, besides, that big one I told you about first thing in the morning. It was kind of a hard choice for us, but at the same time, we all looked at it and we thought about other tournaments, and, what usually, in my opinion, you want something over 50 pounds to feel good. You want something over 50 pounds, and it wasn't quite there. But we decided to let her go and see what the rest of the day brought us. And we learned that the rest of the day brought us a lot of fish under 45 inch, 48 inches.
Ugh.
And at 3:15, we wrapped it up and ran in with our 49-incher to weigh in for a ladies or youth division.
Mm. And what that
Come
fish
to
end up
find
weighing
out,
in?
we probably say what?
What did that fish end up weighing, the 49-incher?
It was like 30 pounds on the dot, maybe 31 pounds. I mean, it was a beautiful fish and all, but it wasn't anything special.
Yeah, it was interesting. We weighed in a 53-incher, and it ended up being 41 pounds, like a mirror image of the fish we caught in this tournament last year. Last year it was 52 inches, 41 pounds. But kind of like we caught that 53-incher at 11 o'clock in the morning, and debated back and forth all the different things, reasoned out, and decided to go ahead and kill that fish. And then fast forward a couple of minutes, find out that Travis on Foolproof, ended up actually being a simple little like wire that was just needing to be spliced, that was causing his ECM to short out. So we towed Travis in. We come back to the area we were fishing, and like you were talking about with that pot of fish, we saw a pot of fish, and there was a big one in it. And I just tossed one bait in there because we were all like low stress because we had already killed a fish. We didn't really realize how big the fish was when we flicked the bait in there, and boom, eats, gets it to the side of the boat, get it in the boat, and it's just a stout 57-inch fish. And we're like, oh my gosh, we got to let this fish go. And then, come to find out that would have probably secured at least to second place. So tournament fishing is tough, man. What would you say is your kind of cutoff line now, after this past Saturday's experience? You catch a fish before noon. What fish is staying versus what fish is going in terms of length?
Oof. Well, length means a lot, but late season like this, they're spawned out. So you're losing a lot of weight with eggs, which is not a bad thing. Obviously, it's a great thing for the fishery. It's not the best thing for a tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how to answer that. The way I look at tournaments is, I don't know. I was so hard pressed with that fish. I was just thinking to myself, it's just another day fishing. If I'm lucky, I'm lucky. If I'm
Right.
not, it wasn't meant to be. And I don't know, man. I mean, I guess at some point you gotta. Yeah, damn, that's a hard. Why you gotta ask me a question like that? I don't
Well,
even know how to answer it. I mean, at some point, if you get one over 50 inches and you've got less than, I want to say comfortably, I'm comfortable with 2 hours of fishing. It
yeah,
doesn't sound like, or it sounds like a long time, but
but
on
it's
the
not.
water, if you're not seeing fish, or even if you are seeing fish, that it feels like 10 minutes,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
So at some point, you got to make a decision, especially within, with less than 2 hours to go in the day. If I had a solid fish over probably 40 pounds, I'd probably make the decision to kill it anywhere after anywhere with less than 2 hours to fish.
yeah.
Anytime before that, it's got to be at least 55 inches.
That's
At
that.
least 55.
That's why I was asking the question because me and my tournament partner we went over and mulled some things over in our heads and that's what we settled on. It's like before noon it'd have to be over 55 inches. Afternoon, pushing 2 o'clock, if it's 50 to 55 inches, she's probably staying. And then you also consider the conditions. You go back to like a June
Oh,
15th tournament.
absolutely.
If it's cloudy and snotty or awful or whatnot, and you do catch a fish like that, you might keep it. I go back to 2019 when I was fishing with Alex Field in the ODU tournament, and it was 2 awful days of direct west 25 to 30 mile an hour wind, chocolate milk water. We fished the same area for 2 days, saw 6 fish, caught one that was 54 inches, 48 pounds, and that ended up, winning the tournament. So, um,
Right.
yeah, it's a tough call either way. But man, just what you've seen so many fish the past couple of days. Obviously, we had that storm system. In your opinion, you're out there on the water all the time. What do you feel right now is contributing to such high numbers of cobias being seen?
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of theories and reasons. I personally, I think it's just part of the stage up. That they've spawned out. A big thing after they spawn that's on their mind is probably food. Nutrients for their travels south. I think they're just staging up. And I say staging because I don't believe that they're all leaving yet. I don't see any mass migration of pods pointing straight out of the bay.
Hmm.
I'm still seeing a lot of pods that are actually. I don't want to say they're spawning because they're not, but they're rolling around each other.
Hmm.
They're moving different directions in that current. I'm seeing plenty of fish. Hell, I'm seeing plenty of fish pointed up the bay. Sometimes it just depends on wind direction and current.
Yeah.
So I think they're in a what I would call a staging period. I think they're starting to group up, get with their buddies, starting to figure things out, starting to focus on food. And it's just part of how the late season goes. I really do believe that they stage up before they move out, and that's the stage we're in right now. Mid-August is a phenomenal time for that.
Oh yeah.
Numbers is the big thing. We're transitioning from seeing our singles and pairs all of, June and July to, more triples and quads and fives and tens and 15s and 20s. And it's just all part of their, I don't know what the word, part of their fall pattern. I usually refer to it as. It's not fall yet, of course, but in cobia season sense, 3 months of cobia season, I'd refer to it as early season, midsummer spawn, and then, fall pattern, which is headed out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, those that are listening, might, have gone out recreationally and tried to chase a few. And, hearing you talk about, hooking 7 and landing 5, is probably like most people's like bucket list, hope for
Yeah.
cobia, whatnot. I mean, what goes on in the tower? I mean, obviously that's a ton of communication and execution to be able to do something like that. Talk me through a couple of things that you maybe keep top of mind or do in a moment like that to actually be able to execute hooking and then landing 5 cobias pretty much all at the same time.
Well, you got to have a lot of rods, and you got to have a lot of rods rigged up, ready to go. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to be running all live baits. We catch plenty and plenty and plenty of fish on jigs of all colors and types and sizes. Especially in that pod fishing when you've got a group of fish like that that are cooperative. Sometimes you can throw into a pod, you're gonna hook one, and they all disappear. Gone they go.
Uh,
They spook, whatever. So sometimes it's impossible to do. But the biggest thing is preparation for it, and the second biggest thing is the fluidness of how you work together with who else is up there with you.
yeah.
And knowing when to stop the boat, who's throwing where, when, who's handing
Hmm.
what rod to who. It's all about speed and efficiency, really. as soon as we hook up one or two fish, they're getting handed down, and our hands are in other rods. You can hook. I want to say we can hook fish in a matter of seconds and get them handed downstairs. So it's
Yeah.
about speed, really, and that fluidness of and the transition with whoever's up there with you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've experienced it myself. And, I think experience and time helps you to get better at it. But like kind of controlling your emotions and staying present, really staying in your body. Because a lot of times you see a
Oh yeah.
pod and it's so exciting and the energy goes crazy. And then you can almost like black out in a sense and get like, tunnel vision. And like
Oh, and
somebody
you
could be
totally
yelling in
screw
your,
it all up.
yeah, someone's yelling in your ear and you don't even hear them. So, you know, I've watched a lot of your Instagram videos, and one thing I admire about the way that you kind of lead as captain is you always seem to keep a very even tone, and it's a very calm tone. And you're like, "All right, guys, let's do this. That's great. Go ahead and open that bail." And I feel like everyone kind of matches your energy in that sense, and it seems to result in a sense of order, and then obviously fish coming on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Because I still get excited. I'm like a kid in a candy shop, especially with a double or a triple or something like that. You look downstairs, you got lines going all directions. It's exciting, but and I still slip up. Don't get me wrong. When I press record, I try and get my bearings and make sure I'm doing everything the best I can. But yeah, absolutely, it's you got to set the tone for the whole boat. Everyone's excited, emotions are high, but definitely staying calm and just working through things one by one is essential too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about this last week, with Captain Austin. A lot of folks have been talking about experiencing pull offs recently. Have you been experiencing that?
Let me think. It depends. It depends, man. That's a great question. Yes and no. A lot of my live baits where I let the fish eat, especially on the two, that we're harvesting that day.
Yeah.
I want to say I haven't experienced the terrible problem with that, but I can relate to that when I say tonight, this afternoon on today's trip, we got into some pods late this afternoon, and we found that for whatever reason, when we were throwing jigs into these pods, we had a ton of fish that were reacting great, and they were trying to eat it, but they wouldn't smoke it or choke it. When we were
Mm.
when we were catching these fish tonight, most of the fish were hooked right in the lip and
Ah,
barely. My mate actually, he'll probably hate me for saying this, but I was busting on him so hard. We were throwing these baits, and we saw 4 pods, and he casted to all of them, and he actually hooked a fish in all of them and pulled off 7 fish tonight before catching one.
oh,
And
interesting.
I have absolutely no clue why, except for the last pod we threw at where we both hooked up. Those fish were a lot feistier for whatever reason. They choked the bait real good. Like, well,
Yeah,
not damaging wise, but they ate it good enough for that hook to be in a solid place. That's a
right.
really funny point because we out on the water every day we do talk about stuff like that, and it does come up every now and then. But that's funny. Today was the worst experience I had with it, and it was just on those the fish I caught earlier in the day around 12 to 1 o'clock when the sun popped out finally and the clouds went away. We had no problems getting them to eat or keeping them on the hook.
Hmm. I
I
think it,
think we caught 6 fish over 40 inches in under an hour. They were popping really good, and it was actually singles and pairs mostly. We saw some fish on turtles, we saw some fish on rays, and we saw a couple free swimmers, and all of them were no problem and fine. But when we got 2 to 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon, we pulled off 7 before we caught the 3 we caught. It's pretty funny.
It is interesting. There's things that I've seen before, and it's like, a lot of times things happen like a pull off, and you've got these, archive memories of other things you've seen, and sometimes you're trying to dig back there and like associate that to what happened in the moment. And I can't
Right.
remember if it was something Captain Austin said or not, but it was like the idea that like sometimes you see fish almost like grab something like a dog bone, kind of like
Yeah,
hold it.
absolutely.
And it's like if you're not fishing the bait where you can visibly see it, and this obviously is a live bait, not a jig. It can be tough, if they've dove on that bait and you see the line leaving your reel and you think you're good. I mean, that's what we experienced the other day a bunch was like we think we're getting a good eat. We go to come tight, you feel a little bit of tension, you swing to set the hook, and then it just, pulls right out. And it's like, what in the world? And you think you're a bad fisherman, but in reality, it could just be that that fish was just mouthing the bait and didn't actually even have the hook inside of it.
We definitely had that happen yesterday. on the live baits. Today, not at all. Yesterday, they dog boned the hell out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of like 5 fish yesterday. It was rough. It was very annoying.
Yeah, it'll drive you nuts, and then
You
especially
feel
if that
great.
happens. Sorry, go
Yeah, you
ahead.
feel great because the fish ate, right? You don't
Yeah,
see the bait, or you see a little bit of the bait, but you know it's in his mouth, like he ferociously attacked it, but all he's doing is holding it there. It's like you wonder if he's just trying to kill it, or if he's just playing with it, or if it's just a reaction strike and he's not even that hungry because his stomach's already full because he just ate, whatever he ate. I
yeah,
mean, that's a very good point.
yeah.
And I definitely had more problems with it yesterday and then to this afternoon on jigs.
Yep. So when you become aware of that being the issue, that they're just maybe dog boning it or playing with it, is there anything that you can think of, as an angler to maybe induce a more aggressive bite that would maybe eradicate that issue a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it could have to do, and something I've found is potentially the angle that I'm trying to catch that fish at. If it's just lackadaisically swimming and I toss a bait 5 feet from it and it just sees it out of curiosity, and it goes and checks it out and dog bones it, that a way I could change that up and that I've seen it, not nothing's a sure fix. It's still a fish we're talking about here. I can't get but so into their mind, but I definitely found that there's ways you can almost, I don't know, try and provoke a reaction out of them, whether you want to, cast it closer to them or pull even, live bait or dead bait or jig, you pull it by their face faster or jig it harder or let your bait sink more or keep it right on the surface. I mean, there's all sorts of little things you can do, but I've not found anything that is proven to work 100% to cure anything.
Yeah,
I think it's really just trial and error and hoping you get enough shots.
yeah,
Hell, sometimes I've fished areas where it seems like the fish just aren't cooperating well, and I'll just straight up move. There's a saying, "Don't leave fish to find fish." I'm a believer in that, but at the same time, Chesapeake Bay is a big area. We
yeah,
we really can cover some water, especially on my full day trips that we're running mostly every day, but especially this time of year. We can cover some water and try something new too. Sometimes fish are just stubborn. Sometimes they're focused on something else. If I knew, I'd be a lot better at it than I am. If I could really figure out what's going on in those little heads of theirs, I sure would be happy. But
Well, it's interesting you say that because I remember many years ago learning to fish with a much older gentleman who'd been a tournament bass fisherman in his early days, and he was like 72 when I first started fishing with him. And we'd go out speckled trout fishing, and he would catch 12, 13 to my one. And it was like each time we went, he would download another little nugget to me about something he was doing that I wasn't doing. And it just, slowly but surely kind of closed that gap on effectiveness. And so I think you said a couple of key things that I picked up on. The angle of, the cast to the fish and meaning the angle that you're setting the hook at, whether that
right.
fish is facing you or facing away from you, where your boat
Oh,
is in
absolutely.
relationship to that fish. Those can be little things where, again, back to that like emotional awareness and calmness, if you're in the moment and you're present and you're actually taking in and processing that information in real time, you might pause a moment and wait for that fish's head to turn away from you before coming tight on it. And that could literally be the difference of catching that fish or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool, man. Well, I'm excited to keep seeing what you guys do the rest of the summer. I always love tuning in to you guys' fishing and just seeing y'all catching one after another. Today you said you had a 12-year-old that was able to cast and hook up on their own.
Yeah, he participated in one of my little kids summer fishing camps, one of my 3-day camps this summer, and he had a really great time. And I let them know I had some openings later this season, and he ended up bringing his dad and grandfather out, so I had 3 generations of them.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, we had a phenomenal day. Once we caught a couple fish, he wanted to give it a shot, and I knew he had enough fishing knowledge to make it happen, and so I definitely wanted him to get some shots, and it ended up it ended up coming together well. Not perfectly. The ideal situation would have been a fish soaking on top as pretty as could be, and he could take as many casts as he needs to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that never worked. So what we ended up doing after a few failed attempts was I would throw for him so that I could get the bait closer, and then I'd give him the rod and he could do the rest of it, get that hook set, play with that fish as he needed to get it to eat. And it all came together there at the end of the day. It helped that we were, running into some pods of fish towards the end of the day and seeing them 10, 15 at a time. And at first they did not want to eat, but then they started eating very well for us. So he got to hook his own today, and I fought it for a second, and he climbed down, and I handed him the rod. And so he pretty much did it all himself. We were actually casting, both of us were casting live baits. I was kind of backing him up. So if he casted and I thought it was a little too far to the right, left, or a little short of a cast, I would throw and then hand him the rod, and then I'd crank in his, and so on and so forth. And it was still a little bit of a team effort, but it worked out good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the mental picture of you helping that young man, get his first fish, I'm sure that's going to be seared into his memory for a long, long time. I think that's extremely cool that you guys do that. And, it's only August the 13th right now. We still easily have a good month left, if not,
Oh yeah.
some trophy, catch and release time as well. I'm sure you guys are going to keep running trips, if you've got some availability and folks want to get up with you and book a trip on Litigator, what's going to be the best way for them to contact you and get that trip booked?
Yeah, I'd love it if anyone wanted to get out. I definitely have some availability, later this month and in September. I've got plenty of availability. The best way to contact me is definitely by text. I do a lot of phone calls on a daily basis, so text would be my preferred method. Just shoot me a text at 757-345-9698.
Awesome. Yep. And then follow you on Instagram, Litigator Sport
Yep.
Fishing. Excited to see what happens the next couple of days as these pods continue to go. That's some super fun fishing, man. Hopefully folks will get up with you and get a good experience. And you fish, remind me the boat that you fish on and where you fish out of.
Yeah, I run a 26-foot Intrepid. It's an older hull that I've redone, and it's out of Yorktown, Virginia.
Awesome. Beautiful rig, stable platform. Get them on the fish. Colt, thank you so much for being with us, man. Appreciate that report. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. Look forward to fishing in your tournament on Sunday.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. Folks, that's going to wrap up a fun report about all things cobia with Captain Colt. Y'all stick around for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Killer Dock. Most fishermen clean their fish on something like a unsightly old wooden table or the top of a cooler, somewhere that is not comfortable, not sanitary, and not attractive. Killer Dock makes the greatest fish cleaning station known to mankind. They are built from marine-grade aluminum and are corrosion-resistant clear-coated to protect it from the harsh salt environment. Killer Dock makes tables and canopies at several different sizes. So whatever you need on your dock, deck, or patio, they have a fish cleaning station for you. Check out killerdock.com to see more. All right, guys. Well, welcome to our last segment of this show. It's going to be our inshore segment, and I'm excited to have two guests on the show at the same time. This is a new venture for the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, but we're going to welcome back Captain Mike Roby and then also Captain Eric Myers on Heads and Tails. Guys, welcome to the show. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Mike, yourself?
Doing great, Luke. Thanks for having us back again. And I can't wait to talk about everything that's been going on this past weekend. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm excited too. Last week it was such a cool learning experience for me to understand all of what Hooked on Hope does, how you started that, and where it is now. So catch us up, man. Saturday, the weather turned beautiful. You guys had a killer tournament. Give me the highlight reel and what all went down. How did it go?
Yeah, man. So when we talked last time, we were worried about Hurricane Debbie coming in and all the weather. And I don't know if I said it on the last time, but I bought 300 ponchos for all my captain's buckets because I figured if I bought ponchos, it would not rain. And it did hold out. So we ended up with 55 boats in our tournament. And again, Air Spanish Mackerel tournament's open to the public. My only rule is you got to have a kid under 18 on the boat to participate. We had 14 of our own pediatric cancer families fishing in the tournament. And it was a super, super good day. The fishing was awesome. It was hot. Mackerel were plenty. Lots of cobia put on boats. One of my boats, Eric Myers, who's on here today, got a citation for a young man in Charlottesville who came down here. So it was just really, really awesome, man. We had an awesome time.
So you said 55 boats. I mean, that's a lot of coordination to get everybody out there. So did all 55 boats that enter show up?
Yes, all 55 boats participated. I think there were only 5 boats that didn't weigh a Spanish mackerel. I think some of the boats on the oceanfront kind of got hit up by the bluefish and didn't get a Spanish mackerel. But yeah, everybody came back. The kids were coming in, one by one with their three biggest string, and it was just a really, really cool time to see these kids coming in with their three biggest fish.
That's cool, man. We were talking, before we hit the record button, because I was pulling out of the creek to go fish in the Gloucester shop with the Cop Cobia tournament out of Wyrock. And, I see Eric Myers Sr. getting ready to pull out in the heads and tails small boat. And I go, what are you doing? So tell us what went on there at, what was it, 5:45 in the morning of the tournament?
Oh, yeah. So that was crazy. My buddy Brandon Baldwin on Having Charters, his wife is expecting. He was supposed to take two of my families out of Rudy. He texts me at 5:45 saying, man, I'm sorry, we're at the hospital. And from there, I just started scrambling, started calling people. And Eric Myers Sr., who's part of Heads and Tails, has actually done a lot of air trips as well. Called him. He got one family on. And then one of my good friends, Alex Bell, with Bush and Taylor PC, was a big sponsor this year as well. They were going out with Clint Carpenter on Good to Go. And they squeezed the other family on there. So it worked. It was a little chaotic. I spent about 45 minutes reaching out to everybody, and Eric Myers, the third right here on the phone, he was a part of it. So we're all trying to make this happen, and everybody made it possible for these families to go out there.
Man, that's awesome. Well, I hope you guys raised a ton of money for Hooked on Hope so that you guys can put as many families on boats and charters in the near future to make those memories. So I'm curious, who won the tournament? What was the winning stringer and the single biggest fish?
Yeah, so my man Eric Myers the third, he's the champ. He's done 37 charters for us since 2019, 11 this year. He had my family from Charlottesville, Parker, and his dad, Jamie, went out there fishing. They caught the three biggest mackerels. Don't quote me on the exact amount, but I think the biggest mackerel was like 2.6 or something like that, and their biggest string was over 7 pounds. They walked away with $9,000 for their Spanish mackerel tournament. 3,700 of that was for the family to keep. That was the prize money. And then Eric went all in on both Calcuttas and walked away with $5,580 for a Calcutta. So it was pretty special, man.
Man, that's a great story to hear. And, couldn't think of anybody better than than Captain Eric on the Heads and Tails, who's been a guest of the show many times and just a great friend and just a great captain in the fishing community. So, Captain Eric, how did you put together that winning stringer, man? What was the strategy?
The strategy was there was no strategy. We had talked. I had talked with Jamie and Parker before we left the dock, and we both agreed that we're just going to go have fun. So I told him after the blow, I don't really know where the Spanish might have gone. So I was just telling him we were going to go. We were going to make it a short run. We were going to go to the first small boat channel. If we happen to see some fish going, we're going to stop and troll around. If not, we're going to look down the bridge because Parker really, really, really wanted to catch a cobia. And I was like, well, we can definitely make that happen today. It's calm.
Yeah.
So we just lucked out. And as soon as I came through the first small boat channel on the bay side, and we saw about, couple hundred mackerels skying out, busting in the bait balls. And I was like, well, this seems good enough for me. Then the best part was we had to sit around and wait because we got out there early because I was running around and trying to take some pictures of some other boats in the tournament. And we were watching mackerel sky out for probably 15 minutes.
Wow.
And then as luck would have it, 8 o'clock rolls around. We go to put our Spanish rods in and they disappear. There's no more busted mackerels, no nothing. I was like, oh, great. And we probably had probably the first 15 minutes of nothing. Like I pulled through 3 bait pods and basically put it in idle and expecting a couple bluefish to eat, and we didn't get a thing. And then all of a sudden we turned and went back towards the bridge because I was like, well, I'm just gonna go look down these poles real quick and see if we can't catch a cobia. And all of a sudden 3 rods go and it's all 3 Spanish, and I was like, all right, we're on to something. I had 3 gold spoons out and a silver and pink one, and I was like, well, let's go ahead and change the silver and pink one. We caught mackerel with nonstop action for, I'd say, a good 30 minutes, 45 minutes of just nothing but doubles and triples.
So go back in time just a second ago. So you said, you were shopping some different areas based on what you were looking for, and then you saw some fish skying out, you saw some bait balls, and then you said you had three gold spoons out and one pink and silver. So first I want to know, how far back behind the boat did you have those running, and did you have like planers so they were down below the surface a little bit?
I'm a creature of habit, so I always do 2 planers and 2 inline weights.
Okay.
I pull 4 rods for Spanish mackerel fishing, whether I'm in the tournament or not.
Got it.
So I think we had 1.5 and 2.5 ounce trolling sinkers on it, and then size 1 planters.
Okay. And for me, an uneducated Spanish mackerel fisherman, I'm kind of conceptualizing what that looks like, but talk me through like off my main line to the egg sinker, to the leader, to the actual spoon, what kind of distances, what kind of lengths and pound tests are we talking about there?
So all my Spanish rods have 30-pound mono on them, and then I go to a bigger, hefty snap swivel. That way I can switch out the rods to go to either an inline or a planer, because the planer pulls a lot harder. You can't use a really small snap swivel on those, or you just bend them out.
Got it.
And then from the planer or the weight, it's always 3 arm lengths of leader.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you. I'm not the tallest man in the world, so I'd probably say about 15 feet or so. But for you, it might be 25 feet. I don't know. You're a very tall guy. A little bit more of a wingspan on you. But yeah, I always do 3 arm lengths of leader and a swivel in the middle in between the snap swivel going to the planer, and then I got 4 to 5 feet of leader from the swivel in the middle to the park spoon.
Got it. So to have that discipline or that knowledge, I guess, is that from experience that if you've got 3 gold and then the 1 pink and silver, and then that's the one that gets hit, is that a mark of, okay, we're going to change all of them to that color because for whatever reason, that's what they want? Is that really how those Spanish operate? They choose a color based on a given day?
I mean, every day is different. I always just pull the whole kitchen sink up. There's some green. I throw some purple ones out or pink ones out there, and then.
So if that's what you were doing, then obviously you won the tournament. Mike, what was going on in your boat? Did y'all just leave all the gold ones in the water? What happened?
Look, man, I was not fishing. I've never been able to fish this tournament because I'm always busy sending families out and getting the event ready. So one of these years, I'm going to get it right where I got to fish a little bit. So I don't go out there fishing, man, but I'd love to get a try one year.
Yeah, absolutely. Captain Eric, it looks like you getting attacked.
I'm sitting here at work, and there's Spanish jumping all over the creek right now. Right off the pilot dock.
I saw you. I saw you looking around. I thought somebody was about to come, jump on your car or something. So you're watching Spanish jump right now?
Yeah, Spanish and blues are busting up bait right here in front of the dock.
Oh my goodness! And for those that don't know, Captain Merrick, he's not just a captain of the small heads and tails boat, the big heads and tails boat, but he also is a captain of some big head. I guess, are they head boats? No, they're not head boats. What pilot boats? That's right. For the pilot association. So he's one of those guys out there driving our captains out to bring those big tankers and Navy ships into the bay and into the port. So I know you've got some hard work ahead of you tonight, going straight from fishing a charter to straight to work. Is that why I saw you smelling your shoes and checking them before putting them on?
Yep. I had to make sure it wasn't too bad. Yeah. Had to hit them with Lysol before I go in.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. We're on video for those listening, and I'm watching him smell his shoes before putting them on. I'm like, that's a man after my own heart, because you don't want to be that guy in the room that's stinking the whole place up.
Nah, it's like the worst thing ever, I rushed out of the house this morning. We decided to go look around, see if we can find some mahi or something. In the excitement, I forgot my other pair of work shoes, so we're just going to roll with it tonight.
There you go. So, question for you about tournament fishing in general, especially with Spanish mackerel, that all can be, similar in size. You sound like you caught a whole bunch of them. When it came time to decide which 3 fish you were going to bring to your stringer to weigh in, how did you decide that? Did you have a method to that madness to figure out which you were going to bring up to the scale?
Honestly, I think we had 27 or 28. And we just lined them all up in a line. Whichever 3 were the biggest, those were the ones we took. And the 3 that we had that were the biggest were way bigger than the other ones. So
Okay. That made
I
it
think they
easy.
were all 23, 25 inches.
Mm-hmm.
I think our biggest one was like 25, but he was skinny. The 23 inches were nice and thick.
So, question for you. I've been out a time or two trolling for Spanish mackerel, and something I've had challenges with is not only like tackle getting tangled, but also challenges with losing fish boat side. So, what's the best strategy if I'm going to go, Spanish mackerel fishing? What's the best strategy to A, avoid tangling my lines, and B, when I do get a bite, getting that fish all the way into the boat without losing it boat side?
Oh man, this one's tricky because everyone's going to tell you a different answer.
You're the one carrying the WWE belt champion around. So I want your answer because obviously
Well,
your answer's got to be the best.
the best thing that I know of, and this comes from just years of Spanish mackerel fishing, and that's just to have a bunch of spare rigs ready to go on those little rig holders. Because when you do tangle up, it's honestly inevitable. It happened to us twice that day. Sometimes those fish catch a wave just right and they skip right over another line, and well, that leader's toast. So
And then what about getting them in the boat?
don't take the boat out of gear. Just keep moving.
You're still looking at Spanish mackerel jumping in the creek, aren't you? I can't keep your
Yeah.
attention. How big are they? Are they big ones?
No, it's just a lot of them. Just a bunch.
How hard is it to go to work right now when you're seeing fish skying out of the creek?
Oh, not hard at all because it's just Spanish mackerel.
Okay.
You know, could,
Uh,
could be something cool, but I'll probably end up having to catch some of those tonight.
yeah, absolutely. So keep the boat in gear, and then do you just hand line them in at the very end? Is that the best way to do it?
Yeah, hand lining them in and slow and steady. Slow is fast when you're leadering those fish. You don't want them spinning and popping out of the water a bunch.
Ah,
So
okay.
once they're up on their side and skipping, you don't want them to dig back down because that's when they'll pop off.
Okay.
You just want to keep pulling at a gentle, easy rate.
That makes a lot of sense. And then once you get them back in the cooler, do you like to bleed them, or is that not as necessary for a Spanish mackerel in contrast to other fish like cobias?
I know a lot of people that do bleed them. They use them for like sushi and stuff. But for me, I mean, as long as you throw them right in a nice cold ice box, I don't think it really matters that much.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much to them, let's say that.
Got it. Okay. Well, cool. Well, I'm feel like I've become a student of Spanish mackerel. Now I feel like I could go out there and maybe catch one or two at least. And I need to take gold, silver and pink. And then what are some other popular colors that I should be armed with when I'm going to go chase down some Spanish?
I mean, as long as you got silver and gold, I don't think you can really go wrong. But a lot of other guys, they'll pull the ones with like the flash tape on them in like green or pink. It's popular. Doesn't mean you're going to catch any more than the other guy, but sometimes you get lucky.
Yep.
All it is.
Yep. Absolutely.
Just like anything else.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of, everyone that participated and what Hooked on Hope does, thank you for being such a strong contributor with 37 trips. And again, congratulations on taking the belt and the win. You guys crushed it, your whole team. Before we wrap up with you, folks want to get out with you and go chase some Spanish mackerel or maybe some cobias, aboard Heads and Tails. What's going to be the best way for them to contact you and book a trip?
They can give me a call at 757-573-9569, or they can visit my Facebook or Instagram page. There's a link to my booking website on both of those.
Perfect.
So.
Awesome. We'll drop that in the show notes for us. Well, why don't you go get yourself off to work and don't work too hard. And we look forward to seeing some reports here soon. And then I got a couple more questions for Captain Mike about the event and Hooked on Hope that we'll jump into here in just a moment.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that was great hearing from Captain Eric, the new reigning champion of the Hooked on Hope Spanish mackerel tournament. So I'm curious, these things obviously take an army to put on. You've got, swag bags to put together and captain's buckets and advertising and registrations and all these things. Like, I know you're not doing this all by yourself, Mike. Is there any folks that you would like to thank for helping put this thing together?
Yeah, man. So I start this around like February, starting to plan this whole event for August. It's usually the second Saturday every August. But I got to give a shout out to a few people. Ballyhoo's down at the Virginia Beach off of Shore Drive, they are amazing. Every year they put out quality food. Their staff is awesome. They let me use the space for 2 days. I get to do the captain's meeting on Friday night, the event on Saturday, and they honestly, I feel like they love having us there as much as they love, what we do. So it's really cool. Another shout out I give out to is Chartway Promise Foundation. If you guys don't know them, check them out. They're a charitable arm of Chartway Credit Union. They help people with illnesses and things that kids can't get through. And they're one of our biggest sponsors. They send out people to come out and meet the families in the morning. They come help set up the event, and they're just all in it. It's more than just the money they give. They want to be a part of what we're doing. So that's always really cool. And the other thing I just want to say, all the other volunteers that come out, thank you for coming out there, helping us set up. It was hot. It was not pleasant. It rained on us. We had a good time, but there's so many people behind the scenes that make this tournament possible, and not just the tournament, but what we do throughout the year, taking these families out fishing. I have people meet them at the boat, people that go to my storage unit, get things ready. There's a lot of people involved. It's really cool. We got awesome face painters, bounce houses, just tattoos, photo booths. There's a lot of people that make us look good for what we're doing for cancer families. And we had a really, really good year. Like I said earlier, we had 55 boats, 14 of our pediatric cancer families. And those 14 pediatric cancer families could not go out without awesome, awesome captains who are involved with us throughout the year and put this on their calendar every year to make sure our families have a fun day. Can't say them all right now, but you guys know who you are. I'm going to do a follow-up post on social media. I'm going to tag everybody. It's going to be long, so forgive me for that part, but there's so many people to thank for what we did. This is their 5th year doing this, man, and I told Captain Josh Bourne on Wingman Guide Service and Daniel LeGrand on LeGrand Slam, when they told me we should do a Spanish mackerel tournament, I told them 2 things. My families need to be a part of this. The other thing is we cannot lose money. And every year we check those boxes. We're getting bigger and bigger every year on that. We raised $20,000 to continue catching memories for pediatric cancer families right here in Hampton Roads. That is a big deal to me.
Man.
It is so good. Everybody that came out is a part of it, whether you just showed up and fished, bought some raffle tickets, all those people that gave us raffle items, you guys are all a part of what we're doing for our pediatric cancer families right here in Hampton Roads. And I can't love you guys enough. I can't thank you enough. I spent a lot of time calling people after the fact, just saying, man, I love you. Thank you for your time. I send handwritten cards to people because this is important. I want people to know that this is important. And it was just awesome, man. I heard from some people that we're the largest inshore tournament in Virginia Beach, or in Virginia, maybe even possibly the East Coast. So if you can fact check that for me somehow, I'd love to know if it's true or not.
Well, I think it has to do with 2 things. One, people love Spanish mackerel fishing. It's actually quite relaxing and fun. You get out there, especially on a good weather day, it's a good time. And then 2, when people find out what the cause is and who they're supporting and who they're benefiting, how could you not be excited to be a part of something like that? I mean, it's one of the most admirable, honorable causes that, exists. Helping kids, one thing. Helping kids that are dealing with pediatric cancer, whole other level. So you guys are definitely making some dreams come true. And it kind of makes me think of that old adage, from, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. In this case, you're taking people fishing, and those memories are lasting a lifetime. So Mike, thank you so much for what you're doing in the community. I think I speak for our whole audience. We love it. It's awesome. Keep up the good work, and we look forward to seeing more and hearing more from you in the future.
And look, I got 2 more things if you can give me 2 more minutes just to wrap up.
Hit me.
I want to thank Captain Reese Bowles, who's been doing the Virginia Beach Tuna Tournament for over 20 years now. Always is the awesome master of ceremonies, makes people look silly with Simon Says and other events. He's been doing their event for the last 2 years, and he does an amazing job. I'm going to post a video for the people that didn't hear the blessing of the fleet on the morning of. It was really awesome and perfect for the day. So I'm going to share that real soon. And then the other thing I want to say is we did a table this year for our angel anglers, is what we call it. We have 17 kids that have fished with us and been connected with Hooked on Hope in the last 7 years that lost their life to cancer. We recognize them. We're going to continue to recognize them moving forward. And it was awesome to see the cancer families that have lost their kids that came back with their siblings to fish in the tournament, have a good day. And the other thing I want to say is like our money that we give away for the tournament, we keep 50% of the entry fee, which is $250 to enter. We keep 50% and split up the other 50% between first, second, and third. I don't want it to be the expectation that people donate the money back to us. Two of our cancer families placed first and third this year. First place tried to give it back to me. I gave them most of the money back. Second place was Ocean's East Bait and Tackle, which is awesome. Justin Wilson and Mark out there, they're super people. They ripped up the check. I understand that more than one of our cancer families doing it, but I don't want the expectation to be that you win this tournament, you got to give it back to Hooked on Hope. I want you to join the tournament, know that prize money is for you if you win it, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And again, thanks to everybody that makes it possible. And I'm super proud of what we're doing, man. You know, sometimes,
awesome.
you know, I deflect a lot of credit a lot of times, but this is one of those things I'm really proud of, and I'm really proud of the people that make it possible alongside of me. So I appreciate you putting me on the show and getting us out here and just letting people know what we do.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate it.
I think you should be proud and you know, definitely a workman, you know, who deserves some honor and praise for being, you know, faithful and making this thing happen and seeing it through. I will say this, I've been to a lot of tournaments, like golf tournaments that are fundraisers and things like that. And there's a couple that, you know, start to get a little bit of a stigma for the 50-50 raffles where you know that even if you get your winning ticket pulled, you're going to start to hear that chant, give it back. And I think that there's actually a flaw in that, which I appreciate you saying that about like, hey, we want you to win and we want you to keep it. Because I believe that as people get the idea that there's an expectation to give it back, that it will actually reduce participation because part of the fun of competing is that it's going to draw more people in. So, you know, don't feel that pressure like you're saying. Let's get 60, 70, 80 boats in. And then even then, you know, giving away that money to the people that win, it's just going to mean that there's that much more to give, you know, back to the foundation to help people. So I love what you're doing, man. For those that are listening that want to get involved with Hooked on Hope, what's going to be the best way for them to contact you or find Hooked on Hope?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me is my cell phone, 757-472-7212. We have social medias, Instagram and Facebook. It's Hooked on Hope BB, both platforms. You can check out our website, hookedonhopebb.org. Our tournament website is bbmackerel.org. We're going to be putting all of our pictures out there on our bbmackerel.com. We'll have a little photo thing on there. And I got to give one more shout out to Shutter Speed, Jenny, who's always out there taking pictures of the boats. Every time I have a family going out, I call her and say, hey, you're on the water today. I got a family out there. And she always tries to find them. She took some amazing pictures. So I just wanted to give her a shout out as well. So that's the best way. 757-472-7212 is my direct number. But check us out on social media, Hooked on Hope BB, Instagram, Facebook. That's the easiest way to see what we're doing for our pediatric cancer community.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, definitely shout out to Jenny. She's going to be up with the Kingaling tournament this Sunday, the 18th, to take some pictures there at the way station. So we're excited to have her. Folks, that's going to wrap up a really cool inshore and tournament recap. Y'all stick around for the What Did You Learn segment and a word from our sponsors. GreatDaysOutdoors.com. Great Days Outdoors has been the premier destination for hunters and anglers looking for a comprehensive look into the outdoor lifestyle since 1997. Our stories are crafted by dedicated journalists who live, eat, and breathe all things hunting, fishing, conservation, and land ownership. Check them out at GreatDaysOutdoors.com. All right, y'all. Well, welcome to this What Did You Learn segment. I think what I learned this week is that there's a lot of tournament fishing going on, from the White Marlin Open to the Y Rock and Shop with a Cop to Hooked on Hope and the Mackerel Tournament. Summer's in full swing, and my goodness, man, so many great stories, so much cool information to digest and learn. I'm still just kind of like trying to digest and process what that feeling must have been like that Captain Jake Bowles experienced with, you know, a fish weighing the exact same as another fish, and then learning that it's going to be, you know, $100 and something thousand instead of, you know, $2 million something. I really, Jake, thoughts and prayers, man, thoughts and prayers. I just don't know how you did that and you know, are still out there tournament fishing. I feel like that might have broke my spirit. It's just such a tough thing to deal with. But, you know, back to, you know, some of the things that we learned, you know, about how they target those white marlin and blue marlin. It was really cool. You know, we've talked a lot about, you know, mahi fishing and tile fishing. We've talked a lot about, flounder fishing and tuna fishing, and, hearing how they, kind of target and get baits to those white marlin or those blue marlin in more of a kind of manual process, hand feeding them the bait. That was really cool to hear that and learn that, and even understand that detail about, circle hooks versus J hooks. It's just always cool to learn these different species and how over the years, we've all, shared information and collaborated and learned, what are the best tools for the trade in order to, secure a hookup with a given, species. Talking to Colt, man, I just got fired up. Obviously, I personally love cobia fishing. That's one of my favorite things, sight fishing in the Chesapeake Bay. And gosh, to think about seeing 200 fish, it makes you so appreciative for those days, because there's so many other days that you're out there hours on end, and you're just not seeing anything. And it can really wear on you. And so when you get those days like that, 200, 300 fish, that reward, that you kind of have look forward to towards the end of the day, or the end of the season, I should say, it just makes all those other days kind of seem worth it. Because truly, I cannot recommend enough to, contact him, or, Captain Andy Kim, Captain Austin Hain, Captain Eric, any of the guys that have spoken on the show, are great captains that can put you on some fish. If they've got some availability between now and the end of the year, this would be the time to get out there and have one of those like epic, blow your mind kind of cobia fishing days. So definitely look up Captain Colt North if you want to do that. And then finally, again, I think I rattled on about it quite a bit last week, but goodness, Mike Roby and Hooked on Hope Foundation, it's just phenomenal. I mean, we are so blessed to have men like him in our fishing community that are doing things like Hooked on Hope to, raise money and then put families that are dealing with pediatric cancer on great charter boats that are going to go out there and show them an amazing time and give them some hope during the challenging time. And goodness, Captain Eric's been on the show since day one, and here we are. He's got the WWE, Spanish mackerel belt. He's won it all. So it was cool to hear him talk about the strategies that he deployed to, target and get those mackerels on board. I definitely learned a lot about, making sure you have a gold, a silver, and maybe a green with some of that reflective tape, and a silver pink if you can. And then, that leader setup, from having just 4 rods, 2 with the number 1 planers, and then 1 with a 1.5 ounce and 1 with a 2 ounce. And just, getting in the target zone, looking for bait and finding where they are and dragging them through there. And then obviously keeping the pressure on by keeping that boat in gear, even once you've hooked up, don't slow down. And then to keep that steady pressure as you pull those fish in all the way to the boat. So there was so much good information to glean, going back to Colt for a second, talking about pull offs, nothing breaks a cobia fisherman's soul more than pulling off after you've seen and watched and eat on a really nice quality fish, and God forbid on a really big fish. So it's just good to be reminded that, there are elements that we can't control. And the best thing you can do is to stay present, stay calm, and, look at the situation, process what things you can control, and just focus on, executing on those. Guys, it's been another great week, another round of great reports. We got some great weather ahead. It's been nice to see a little bit of reprieve from the heat. The humidity's dropping down just a little bit. We've got some unbelievably clear water in the bay, and hopefully some offshore water will continue to improve and produce, more of these mahi bites. I know Captain Bill Pappas has been out there just absolutely whacking and wearing out the mahi, which is great to see. Sea bass season is now back open. So, guys, hopefully y'all get out there and crush it on your next adventure, your next fishing trip. And if you don't have a boat and you're tuning in, getting fired up, by all means, contact one of our captains and get on a trip and get out there and get hooked up on a good fish. Y'all, been a great week. Stay safe out there. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. So that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free AFTCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaning Cloth, just text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them and be safe out there.